Hello everyone, I'm Lauren and welcome to another video from the Tiny Menagerie. Now, one of my absolute favourite fish that is also probably one of the most well-known and, dare I say, a little bit of an overlooked species. It always seems destined anyway to be known only as a beginner fish. It is one that is very cheap, very common. You'll see them in pretty much every single fish store out there, unless this store is particularly specialised, for example. But they are the classic fish for people who are just getting into fish keeping, renowned for being tough as old boots, easy to look after and generally pretty indestructible. And it is of course the white cloud minnow, an instantly recognisable species. But they are so much more than a mere beginner fish, and they deserve more attention than they get from the fish keeping community. It is worth pointing out that white clouds do of course come in two colour variations. There is the natural, darker, more common variety, and there is the golden one. Both of which can have long or normal fins. The regular white cloud is also known as the poor man's neon, as they have that streak of white that runs down the side of the body, reminiscent of their rather flashier cousins, the neons. Both the regular and the golden white clouds have the red patches in their tails and dorsal fins, and some of the strains also show red in their anal fin. These lovely red fins can also have a white or lemony yellow edge to them that makes them really stand out when they're displaying to each other. Personally, I keep the golden white clouds because I like how they really shine in a tank. They are like golden torpedoes forever cruising around in the current. But if you're looking for that more subdued, natural look, then the darker fish is probably the one for you. Other than coloration though, all white clouds are exactly the same fish, kept in exactly the same way. But without further ado, let's take a look at what white clouds are like to keep and what kind of setup do they need. Surprisingly, white clouds are still sometimes mislabelled as Chinese danios. Though they were actually reclassified quite quickly as minnows, they're in the same family as barbs and carps. They originate from the White Mountains of China, hence their name, and there they inhabit fast-flowing, clear waters fed from the surrounding mountains. As you can imagine, their home habitat is prone to dramatic changes in weather and water quality, from hot and humid and stagnating to fast-flowing meltwater, and so white clouds are actually very adaptable to a wide variety of water conditions in the home aquarium. And this is one of the main reasons why they are seen as a beginner fish, like all of the other beginner fish to be honest. It's because they can adapt to all but the absolute worst of conditions and they'll still thrive, although they will breed most successfully in clean, cooler waters of around 15 to 20 degrees. Information varies as to what the maximum temperature is for keeping white clouds. Personally, mine live in with my tropical fish, including with various tetras and barbs, and I think mine have even lived in with the rams at one point, and they've never shown any adverse effect to their lifespan from living in warmer waters. Mine are all about 3 years old, I think the oldest one is 4, but they're still going strong, and the tanks are always set to 24 degrees, apart from for the rams obviously. As for pH, white clouds are fairly accommodating, though they do prefer a pH that is as close to neutral as you can get, but anything between 6 and 8 is fine. One thing you do need to bear in mind with white clouds is that they are active and very inquisitive fish. They don't seem to have much fear of anything. They're actually probably the easiest fish to catch that I've ever had. You can just scoop them out with a net, it's dead easy. But, dare I say, they're not particularly intelligent, and they love to swim in and out of plants and decorations, and they do so at speed, and often seemingly for the sheer joy of doing so. And while this is very entertaining to watch, it does mean they have an annoying habit of getting themselves stuck, especially in small gaps in solid decorations. A particular culprit I found is white lava rock, often used in marinescapes, but it gets used in freshwater ones as well. Any decoration though that has narrow holes in it will be a potential death trap to white clouds. And many of the other danios as well, any species that loves to swim in and out of stuff. But white clouds particularly seem to have turned this into a competitive sport, seeing who can get stuck first. So long as the gaps in your decorations are nice and big though, with no sharp edges, then white clouds are generally pretty tank safe, even in open water, because they very rarely jump. Aside from keeping decorations simple and not too narrow though, any style of tank is perfect for white clouds. I do think they look particularly good in a nice stony riverscape, and if you're a better aquascaper than me, which certainly isn't difficult, then you'll be able to see just how good they look against that stony background. Any plants are ideal with them as it gives them places to hide and to explore, but they certainly do not need a densely planted tank. They are brave little fish who are perfectly happy being out in the open, even when there's not many other fish in the tank. They do need space though, and for a school of 6 fish you should aim to provide them with at least 60 by 40 centimetres of floor space, just so that they've got space to move around. Though remember, a bigger tank and more numbers in the school is always going to be better. And you will want a school of at least 6 fish. White clouds are a sociable species and much more active and more interesting when they have other members of their own kind to show off to. They don't really school together as one big group, they tend to stick in pairs and trios, and then the whole school comes back together every now and then. The only time you ever really see them swimming together is when they are frightened of something. One of the most attractive qualities of white clouds is their perfectly balanced nature. They are brave, they are eager, they are curious, but they are not bullies. And even at meal times, they won't dash in and push smaller fish out of the way. They'll get their share, but they're not over-competitive like a lot of the tetra species can be. They don't dart in and grab things and scare everybody else out of the way. They are in fact perfect community fish, another reason why they're recommended to beginners. But they're also really good as dither fish. And even large adult white clouds show no interest at all in harassing other species. They don't even show any interest in eating the eggs or fry of other species, and so they're wonderfully safe to keep with fish such as guppies or platies, and then you'll still have some of their fry survive. In fact, if you have a fairly densely planted tank, and using something such as Limnophila for example that has a lot of small spaces in it, then it's not unusual for the white cloud's own fry to survive when they're left in with their parents. Obviously in the community tank though, these would then get eaten by the other inhabitants. Tank mates can be any fish not capable of eating them. White clouds go very well with semi-aggressive fish such as sharks, cichlids and the larger barbs, because they have a really good turn of speed to them and those bigger fish find it very difficult to catch them. But don't get me wrong, they can also be kept with the absolute smallest of peaceful community fish as well. Embratetras and Microrasboras, anything like that will be fine in with the lovely gentle white cloud. One of the fish that is often shown to be a great tank mate for white clouds is goldfish, and this is basically because they both live in cooler waters. And this is really not a good idea. Goldfish might be nice and small when you get them, but they are very, very greedy and they grow fast, and they will become quite large fish, while your poor little white clouds are of course going to stay very, very small, and so eventually they're just going to become a snack. If you've come specifically looking for a tank mate for your goldfish, then you might be better off looking at something like a rainbow shiner. Just as active, just as beautiful, but they grow to be a much larger fish, better capable of staying out the way of a goldfish. As has been mentioned, white cloud minnows show very little aggression towards either their own fry or those of other fish, and in a well-planted tank with plenty of hiding places, it's very likely that your fish will breed successfully, and you will find the odd fry just turns up every now and again. If you're looking to breed with more purpose though, then you will want to get a separate tank to spawn these fish in and raise the subsequent fry. It's worth being aware though that female white clouds get quite big and heavy for such little fish, and they are very, very productive. A young female in her prime can easily produce 50 to 80 eggs every couple of days, and so if you're breeding more than one female, your fry numbers can get very high very quickly. To get your females into breeding condition, as well as keep everybody else in good condition to be honest, white clouds really don't need anything fancy. Normal fish food is absolutely fine, balanced diet for them. And so simple pellets for small fish, flakes, frozen bloodworm, anything like that every now and again is more than enough for this wonderfully undemanding little fish. As long as they're getting a balanced diet, you will see those females starting to swell up with eggs. And undemanding certainly is a primary characteristic of the white cloud minnow. That is whether you want to keep the normal ones or the golden variant that I have. White clouds are easy to keep, but they're more than just a beginner fish, as their constant movements and eagerness to explore makes them great fun too. Anywho, I hope you have enjoyed this little video all about white cloud minnow. Happy fish keeping everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!